Right, good afternoon everyone and welcome to today's Planning Committee meeting. We have two applications and the confirmation of a tree preservation order to consider on the agenda today, along with a report on planning appeals. I am happy with this and intend to take the business in order set out on the agenda. Is the live stream started? Yep. The first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. Have we received any in advance?
None received, Chair.
The second item is declaration of interest. Members are requested to declare the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interest and or other interest not already on their register of interest in any item on the agenda and withdraw from the meeting at the appropriate time. Do any members have an interest to declare? Yeah. Councillor Rouse.
If you just press the right button there.
Yeah, is that am I right? Yeah. Yes, Chair, I'd like to declare an interest as I sit on the Claycross Town Board and also I'm a Cabinet member. So I'll stay for the presentation. When that's over, I'll leave to do questions, etc.
Thank you, Councillor Rouse. We now have the minutes of our meeting held on Tuesday 23rd of April. Are we happy that they are a correct record and can we agree them by acclamation? Everyone in agreement? Thank you. Just before I move on to the main business, has everyone had a chance to read through the late reps at 5 minutes? Or does anyone need any extra time? No, everyone fine? We'll move on to the main agenda then. That brings us to the main business for the meeting, our two applications and the TPO. Before we start, I would like the clerk to explain for the benefits of members, speakers and those watching live on YouTube how we will deal with them.
Right, thank you, Chair. This is the procedure for considering the business this afternoon. The Chair will introduce the application, then ask the planning officers to deliver a brief presentation and highlight any late representations which have been received. The late representations report has been published on the Council's website and hard copies have been circulated to you. After this, the Chair will ask any speakers to address the meeting. There are 3 speakers today speaking on both applications. Speakers will each have 3 minutes to put forward their views. There will be a reminder given by the clerk when 30 seconds remain. At the end of the 3 minutes, members of the committee will have an opportunity to ask the speaker questions, if necessary, to clarify any points they have made. After the speaker has addressed the committee and answered any questions, then they will be allowed to remain in the meeting, but they will not be allowed to participate further from this point. The Chair will open up the meeting for questions to officers, a debate by the committee, and a determination on the application by a vote. The votes will be taken using the voting facility on your microphones. Finally, members, this meeting is being live streamed and a recording will be placed on the Council's website. Please note that others may choose to copy this recording. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alan. Let's move on to the first application, which is NED/24/00275/FL Claycross. I'm now in line with our normal practices. I'm going to ask the planning officer to give a brief presentation showing any photos and plans of the site. I will allow the officers to complete their presentation. Consequently, members, unless you have a point of order that you feel cannot wait, could you please reserve these or any other questions about the process until the end? Right, hand you over to Graham.
Thanks, Chair. We're just having a bit of an IT problem, so if you just bear with us 1 second. Apologies for that, Chair. Quite a significant delay, so we're there eventually. So the first item, this application seeks permission for modifications to an existing public car park and provision of a new vehicular access from High Street. This proposal is linked to the wider scheme for the redevelopment of the Claycross Town Centre, forming part of the Claycross Town Deal, which members granted permission in late 2023. So members yesterday who attended the Planning Committee site visit were shown a full suite of site photos. I won't go through all of those today, but I've got a few in the presentation for you. So a number of late representations have been received which were reported to members yesterday. They included comments of the Parish Council objecting to the proposal and confirmation from the Coal Authority and Derbyshire County Council archaeologist raising no objection to the scheme. We've also received a representation since yesterday from Councillor Coupit, Councillor Stokes and Lee Rowley MP, who wrote in support of the proposal. The full comments you've been provided with prior to the meeting. And Chair, as a point of clarity in the officer report, at paragraph 2.7, I can confirm that the current parking arrangements of Market Street provide 31 spaces, with the proposal that members are considering today providing a total of 25 spaces. 21 of those serve from High Street, 2 of which will be EV charging points, and 4 serve from Market Street. So officer recommendation is to grant permission subject to conditions, and there are no technical reasons to refuse the proposed development. So the next slide, please. So this is the application site, shaded orange on this plan, and it covers part of the A61 a green space between the road and the car park to the east. Next slide, please. So this is a more zoomed in plan of the site. As mentioned previously, the site covers part of the A61, which you can see on the left-hand side. You've got a central green wedge with a footpath which connects the existing car park through to the A61. Next slide, please. So this is the submitted site location plan, which illustrates the existing layout of the application site. There is a central green space with a pedestrian footpath which connects from the car park to the A61. The car park is currently served from Market Street to the northeast. Next slide, please. So this is the proposed site plan, which illustrates the arrangements of the proposed access and parking on site, along with the position of bollards that you can just make out in the bottom right hand corner in the red line. So that will stop vehicles from egressing all the way through onto Market Street or vice versa onto High Street. So the green space that you can see, that will be reduced in size slightly to accommodate the new access, and 5 trees will be removed and 2 retained, 2 of the better species retained. Next slide, please. So I've left this slide in, so this is a bit more of a zoomed in view, just so you can get a good indication of the trees to be removed. You can see the faint outlines of 5 trees to be removed, and the 2 red circles there, they are the trees to be retained. Next slide. So this is just a swept path arrangement plan, and illustrates that vehicles, and so cars and delivery vehicles, can enter the site and exit in a forward gear, and it just shows 2-way access at the site entrance. Next slide, please. And this is the only photo I've included. So this is a view from opposite the site on the A61 High Street, looking back towards the green space. So the crossing that you can see on the right hand side where the motorbike is, that'll be moved 22 metres north along the High Street. And that concludes my presentation, Chair.
Yeah, okay. Right, thanks for that, Graham. Right, colleagues, we have 2 speakers on the application, the first of which is Councillor Morley, the ward member. He will have 3 minutes to get over his points and will be informed when 30 seconds remain. You can ask him to clarify any matters that have been raised, but remember your questions should only relate to the points which have already been made. Councillor Morley. You've got 2 minutes when you're ready. Thank you.
Am I on? Wait. All right, thanks for this today. It's Councillor Morley from Claycross, 31 years on the parish council. I've seen a lot of things happen in Claycross, but this tops the lot. To open that road up there is suicidal. It was supposed to relieve traffic on the A61. It's going to increase it. If people are going to use this car park, apart from losing 5 car spaces, if you want to get onto it from Deansmore, Thanet Street, Market Street, Coney Green, North Winfield, Tupton, you've got to use the A61, unless you can show me another way. When we talk about car parks near it, Eyre Street, it's a one-way street, and you've got to use the A61 to get on it. Come out of top of Holmgate, you're on the A61. It's not helping nobody. I'm all in favour of finding somewhere for a nice car park with electrics and everything else, but this is not the place. Getting out, when you're walking in, or when you're driving into this car park from the north and the south, you can't tell whether the car park's full or empty, because it's a blind spot. You've seen the photographs. The trees, I believe there's 5 trees got to go. But my main concern is as well, the 11 shops, what's on the top of Market Street, that street's going to be pedestrianised. There's 11 shops there. There's a 2-hour wait with the cars on the car park. Them shops rely on people to survive. There's a cafe, there's all sorts of shops there, and they use that car park. And I can tell you now, I don't know how the refuse, anything's been put down for refuse vehicles, so the shops can get their materials away in the dustbins and that. Listen to the people of Clay Cross. When we had this meeting at the town centre group, Clay Cross members voted against it. It got through with people who don't live in Clay Cross, have no thought for Clay Cross. We know Clay Cross through and through, and I can tell you now.
30 seconds.
Right, and I believe that we should support the people of Clay Cross. How many people have pulled me up and said, what a stupid idea? And you know something, I've got to agree with them. And I hope you support me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morley. Does anybody have any questions for Councillor Morley? Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that, Councillor Morley. Most of your comments have been around traffic, saying it'd increase it, it'd make it suicidal, that being your main concern. That's what you said. You've also mentioned those businesses that are there. When it comes to what I have to do as I take your point because you know Clay Cross and you know it much better than I do, but when it comes to me making a decision as a planning committee member, what policies should I be considering here when it comes to traffic? Because our job here is to listen to what the Highways Authority tell us and to listen to their reports, and they've not objected in the same way. So I'm not asking the question to trip you up or anything like that. I'm purely asking the question, what should we be considering when it comes to policy? What's acceptable and what's not? What doesn't it fit for us as committee members? Thank you, Chair.
Can I come back to you? Sorry. Well, what I see, there's health and safety on this department by moving the Pelican crossings back. I'm not going to mention it's going to cost 500,000 quid to do it, but it's moving them back. The shops are regularly used by out of that car park to go straight across with pedestrian is. They're moving that further down. Now, people ain't going to walk that way to go this way. They'll walk straight across. I hope they don't start challenging cars coming both ways at speeds, like left and right, once they get out of the car. It's easy to walk 20 yards across the road than it is 50 yards round the circle and go back to it. There's a lot of concern on health and safety with that. Accidents with cars and everything, pulling out to go on to the right, to go north, the other way, to go south. There's a lot of issues, and in 3 minutes I can't get through them all, which I'd like to do.
Thank you. No further questions. If you want to retake your seat, Councillor Morley.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker we have is Richard O'Donoghue, the applicant who's going to speak to us by Teams.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, you've got 3 minutes when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you. The Clay Cross Town Deal Board is the developer for this scheme, a multi-agency partnership charged with delivering £24 million Clay Cross Town Deal, which is funded by DLUC following a successful bid by the authority to the government. Its focus for the town centre regeneration element is to revitalise the centre of Clay Cross by making it an attractive place for residents, businesses and visitors for years to come. This includes increasing the public space in the town, including pedestrianisation of Market Street, which is the main driver for resiting the Pelican Crossing, improved transport connections as part of the wider connection works, developing a food and drink and leisure offer around a new town square to be known as Bailey Square, actively using the new square in new buildings to provide a space for community activities and events to attract local people and those from further afield. The aim of the A61 access to the car park is to provide direct, more convenient access from the A61 for passing trade. This helps better serve local businesses, particularly around the High Street, Market Street and the new Bailey Square. and is better for shoppers and services, especially for the short stop pop-in visits. While short-term shopping approaching from the A6175 Market Street can still access the council-owned free parking and other parking where appropriate from that direction, there is no convenient opportunity for pop-ins from significant passing trade who will travel along the A61 on a daily basis. The Towndale Board supports the development of this A61 application, recognising the opportunity to help facilitate more passing trade and further help local businesses. The A61 entrance is also a key part of the management plan for flexibility via opening up the bollards that were shown earlier to access through a thorough throughway for larger events taking place and to ease congestion and speed up entry and exit in a managed plan from the new town centre square for events.
30 seconds.
Actions therefore helps future-proof the wider town deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Peterson.
I'm sorry. How does this help the town when you're reducing the car parking numbers of the cars? The car park itself at the moment holds 30 odd cars. You're reducing it to about 25, two of which I believe are for electric cars, which reduce it further. So how does this help? If you're talking about increasing car parking, you're not helping this if you're reducing the amount of car parking.
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. So in line with planning policy, the policy is to reduce car parking in terms of new schemes. So there is a slight reduction in the scheme overall. However, what you'll see that was in the previous wider application previously passed by the committee, the disabled spaces are relocated closer to the centralised Market Street in dedicated and improved spaces, and EV charging points do take up more space, so there are less spaces available, but that is in line with government policy for EV charging points. The funding available via DLUC is a one-time opportunity for Claycross, and the scheme's been signed off by the Claycross board, which consists of multi-stakeholders across many public bodies that have endorsed the scheme. There's also been extensive consultation with businesses in the area that support the application. I know the previous speaker has also had feedback from other businesses that is not necessarily aligned with that. But overall, the loss of space is nominal, and some of those spaces are re-provided elsewhere in the wider scheme that's not in consideration today, but was previously tabled.
Doesn't help.
Thank you. Can you just switch your microphone off?
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
Any other questions? Councillor Liggett.
Good afternoon. The repositioning of the pedestrian crossing, do you believe there's enough pavement just there for mobility scooters, etc.? Because outside what used to be the public house, it seems to be quite a narrow pavement just there.
It's been fully designed by the highway consultants and endorsed by the technical approval process through this 278 by highways, and as you'll see, there's no objections from highways. So that the Bellmouth, as it is currently at the top of Market Street, is fully pedestrianised. The reason the bollards are set back in their current location is because there is just one property that does need occasional access, and they reverse their vehicles into their roller shutter. So that Bellmouth does become fully pedestrianised, and there were two reports from ACOM going back a couple of years now that set commissioned by DCC and the Highways Authority that set the principles for all of this works. So those reports highlight 3 options, of which this is one of those options that has been fully designed, presented to the developer, the Claycross Board, and then gone through all rigorous technical approvals required by the Highways Authority, who are also a key stakeholder in the project.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson.
What's the point of moving it closer to the other pedestrianised crossing? Doesn't that cause traffic jams because you're moving it 200 metres towards another pedestrian crossing further along, which means that you've got stop, start all the way along. We've got enough problems on the A61 without this causing another problem of people coming in and out and a pedestrian crossing that's moved closer to the other one. This is ridiculous.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. The reason for its repositioning is so there's connectivity for Market Street that is pedestrianised. So the flow of pedestrians will predominantly now be in Market Street, and one of the key outcomes of the scheme was to pedestrianise Market Street, such that it was a safer environment for the pedestrians and to drive greater footfall for those businesses. So certainly as far as I'm aware, there's not been a single business that's asked for that to stay where it is, and they've all welcomed it being relocated. It also gives connectivity to anyone then passing through to the other side of the road and onto the park. That said, there is also technical requirements in terms of where the crossing can go in its proximity to the proposed junction. But all of this was carefully considered and worked through with the Highways Authority. And as I say, the starting point for all of this was the 2 ACON reports commissioned by DCC and the Highways Authority. That was the foundation for the overall basis of this element of the scheme.
Any further questions? I have one for you. Just with regard, you mentioned that you've consulted with local businesses, and obviously we've had the 21-day statutory consultation as part of this planning application. What other consultation have you took with the residents of Claycross?
So thank you for the question, Chair. So we had an open day prior to the main application for the scheme going in. At that point in time, this part of the scheme was included. There's also been officers of my colleagues that have gone round to businesses as opposed to residential dwellings, but all of the businesses in and around the immediate area, seeking their views on that, and we've not had anything negative come back. And the primary driver for its relocation is such that it is suitably located for the projected footfall with pedestrianising Market Street.
How long ago was that consultation, you say, the public forum that you had?
It was prior to the submission of the main application. I don't have the exact date to hand, I'm afraid, Chair.
So a long time ago?
I'm not sure I'd quite agree with that statement.
Well, within the last 12 months, 18
yes.
months, 24 months, just some indication?
Within the last 12 months or thereabouts, certainly not 2 years ago, as you perhaps might be alluding to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Any further questions? No, right, thank you. Right, we not attending now, so we have no further speakers on this item. Thank you, members. Do you have any, where have we got to on this? Sorry about this. You will now have the opportunity to put questions to the officers about the application. As always, I would like to keep this part of our proceedings focused on getting clarity about any points you are not sure of. Once we have done this, we can then have our discussion about the application based on all that we have heard and read. So I'm opening the floor to questions to officers. Councillor Gare.
Yeah, I just want to ask about the pedestrianisation of Market Street. Can you enlarge on the impact? I mean, does the pedestrian
Christine,
of
can you
Market
just
Street-
turn your microphone off and can you turn yours off, Andrew, please?
I thought mine had come on. There we are. Okay. Okay. I just wanted to ask about the pedestrianisation of Market Street and how that interacts with this planning application. If this planning application doesn't go ahead, does it mean that we can't pedestrianise Market Street? I can't quite see from the plan how far down that would go.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Gare. The pedestrianisation of Market Street formed part of the planning application for the wider application that you dealt with in the autumn of last year. So it sits to the north and includes, can you see on the plan, I think it's in the officer report.
Yeah. I suppose my real question is how much of Market Street is planned to be pedestrianised?
So yeah, if you look at figure 1, so it's from where the cross-hatched area is on High Street, and it goes east to just at the top right-hand corner of that plan. You've got the access into the car park, so that's as far as it goes. So there's the public house on the corner. So there'll be bollards at one end and there'll be bollards at the western end as well. But yeah, that doesn't form part of this planning application. Okay.
Councillor Cooper, and then.
Thank you, Chair. Graham, at 4.5, it's the Highways Authority question the merit of the vehicular access off the A61 High Street, given it only serves a car park, albeit they've said there's no objections. Moving to 7.4 in the report on page 29, I'd like to ask you what benefit this does have to Clay Cross, because it states here that in view of the above, it is considered by officers that the proposal result in the positive benefit to Clay Cross. What positive benefit to Clay Cross will this have?
So if we just take a step back and look at the policy SP2 of the local plan, that talks about the aims of the local plan in supporting Clay Cross. So within that, at point 3, it refers to the Clay Cross regeneration framework and its priorities, and within that we've got implementing parking directly from the A61, we've got prioritising pedestrianised connectivity and improving public realm. In officers' view, the proposed development would make significant improvements and accord with local plan policy SP2.
Can I come back, Chair?
Yes, of course you can.
I mean, I have to say, I personally live in Pilsley. If I come to Clay Cross, then that's a car park I use. I don't have to enter the A61. I come into the car park off of Market Street, park my car, use the businesses on Market Street, several of which I do regularly. I have to confess that if me as an individual, this happens and the way A61 is, I have to think, is that where I'm going to go and do my shopping? Because it's going to put me off. I personally don't see any benefit to this whatsoever, and I think it's contrary to some of these policies, and it's in my opinion at least, it's poor design, and it's going to have a detrimental impact on the town centre. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Chair. My question's for Mr Cooper, and it is regarding policy. I've read and understood and heard the explanation about SP2 and how, in officers' view, this does benefit Clay Cross. I've listened to the previous question. Mine is about traffic in general and highway concerns in general. We've heard from one speaker about those concerns, and we've heard people allude to the various difficulties in their estimation that this would cause Clay Cross. I've seen that there's no such objection from the statutory consultee, the Highways Authority, which is, as a planning committee member, that's one of the main things I would look at, their view, and that's what I would take into account. The rest is, I take people's point, but I do view it more as hearsay when it comes to it. I'm looking at what those consultees say. So, going back to policy, which is what my question is about, when it looks to people, other committee members, and perhaps this committee not being happy with this, when it comes to tackling that issue of highways, the policy I'm looking at here, and I'd like some clarity on this and perhaps it explained to me better, is ID3, which is sustainable travel. That's the one I'm looking at. I'd like to know if it's just that policy I'm looking at, or I'm considering other policies around highways. And it says sustainable travel, ID3, 4, planning permission will only be refused on the transport grounds if there's an unacceptable impact on highway safety, or if the impact would be severe. So it's about that measure. So, so some advice, firstly, on that measure of severe, and what we'd have to be able to do to be able to refuse such an application and define severe, because we've always got the issue of the appeal looming over us, which is one of the key things for me. Yeah, and it's being able to define that severe. We've already heard from the statutory consultancy that there's no difficulty at all in the man severe with transport, with highways. Is there, apart from that policy, clarity on that policy, is there any other policy I should be looking at in the planning framework or the local plan which helps me make a decision on this? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right.
Thanks, Councillor Foster. You're correct. ID3 is the main policy that officers would have considered highway safety. So, as you point out, ID 3.4, in all cases, permission will only be refused if there be unacceptable impact on highway safety, or where there's a residual cumulative impact on the road network would be severe. Now, the new crossing would be moved 22 metres to the north. The access is provided with 6.8 metres of width. The visibility displays is 2.4 by 43 metres in both directions. And so there's no highways objection, so they don't believe that that impact will be severe. So there'd have to be demonstrable harm to represent a severe impact in highway safety, in my view.
Just further to that, if I can just add to what Graham's said, Chair. Moving on from that, Councillor Foster asked whether there are any other policies that you need to take into account. In terms of highway safety, that would be your driver policy in terms of highway safety. So, as you've said, you've heard representations in terms of other people's comments on that, but in terms of our advice to you as Planning Committee, we are concentrating on that policy, the advice of the statutory consultee, and from that point of view, our advice is that we can see no technical highway reason why this application would be unacceptable. We've no evidence to counter that statutory view. In terms of the other matters, you do have other policies to take into account, and Graham's already mentioned SP2, for example, which is the Clay Cross framework, and Graham's commented on the compliance, in our view, with that policy and the benefits that would arise. But you've also got the other matters you need to consider, which have been alluded to by other members in terms of the impact on the character of the area. So that's policy SDC12, for example. You've also got to consider the issue of the heritage asset, the conservation area. So you've that consideration as well to take into account in weighing things in the balance. Our view as officers, as set out in the report, is that weighing all those things in the balance, it's our view that taking the local plan as a whole, the benefits that arise, the harm is assessed by officers in our report in terms of the green space and the trees, etc. And our view as officers is that any harm, you would need to quantify that, doesn't outweigh the benefits that would arise when considering the local plan as a whole. It's the application before you that you need to consider, not the other non-planning issues that maybe are being discussed here, the need or otherwise for the access. Those are issues that lie out with the planning arguments. You need to consider the planning merits of the scheme, what your development plan says about that, and consider the policies, and then any other matters that you think have a bearing on that, but they must then outweigh any conclusion clearly that you come in terms of your development plan policies. So I hope that helps.
Councillor Liggett?
I've got two questions, please, Adrian. First of all, the repositioning of this pedestrian crossing, could you tell me how far it will be from this new pedestrian crossing to the one that's at the moment outside what used to be the post office? That's the first question. And the second question, a little bit confused, because is there not still going to be parking at the other end of the car park, the other side of the bollards, off the bottom of Market Street? Is there still not going to be parking there anyway?
Thanks, Councillor Liggett. So yeah, the first point of your question. So at 7.25 of the officer report, I do explain that the pedestrian crossing will be moved approximately 22 metres north from its existing position. So hopefully that clarifies that point.
Sorry, I'm asking what the distance is between the new pedestrian crossing and the next pedestrian crossing north. In other words, we're going to have two pedestrian crossings quite close together. I just wonder what the distance actually is.
Chair, to give a clear view on that, we'd need to take that measurement, and we can, I think Graham's trying to do the math now.
I'd say it'd be approximately 30 metres to the north, because it's the other side of Eyre Street, to the north of Eyre Street. Maybe 30, 35 metres. If you want an exact figure, I'd have to come back to you.
Thank you. So we're taking that approximate distance, yeah?
Yeah, that's fine, but I am right that there's still going to be parking at the other end of the car park, basically, the other side of the bollards.
Yes, just in terms of that, Chair, as Graham explained, the east side of the bollards, there would be the 4 disabled spaces that would be directly accessed off the Market Street, but the access to the other car parks there that are close to the Parish Council office, for example, the Social Services building, aren't impacted. They would still be accessed off Market Street. Hopefully that's the issue that Councillor Liggett raised.
Councillor Hancock.
Thanks, Chair. It's either to Adrian or Graham, it doesn't actually matter which one it is. It's a question about conditions. Because Councillor Morley did make a valid point. It certainly wouldn't make an impact on severity, I don't think, but the fact that you can't see from the roadside whether there are empty spaces, could we actually put a condition on there so that there's a notice actually at the entrance to the car park to stop people going in, finding out there's nothing, then coming out, because that would have a detrimental impact, wouldn't it?
That's not a question that we'd considered in terms of the application, Chair. I believe that you could require some signage on that entrance, but how it would be worked, that would be a matter, I guess, that would have been most appropriately addressed to the developer, perhaps. Difficult to answer. If you felt that was overriding, Chair, and without it the scheme is unacceptable, you could put a condition onto that effect. but I'm not sure how it would work.
Councillor Foster.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think you see those sort of those counters, parking counters. You see them mainly on like private car parks and NCPs. You know, it's the internal car parks. You see them sort of counting cars in and out and counting how many spaces are left. Mainly, you see them. I'm myself seen any on the, ones like the one we're talking about today. Others might have. Thank you, Chair.
I've certainly seen the you see them in the centre of Chesterfield, for example, with how many spaces there are on. And I don't know how they work. So in terms of the issues around how that would work, but if you considered that without that the scheme was completely unacceptable and that tipped the balance, then I think you could put a condition onto that effect. But that wouldn't necessarily stop the manoeuvres that I think Councillor Hancock is alluding to, because it would just provide a number and it wouldn't stop people turning in and potentially coming out again. So in terms of the reasonableness and the validity of the condition, I think it wouldn't necessarily stop an issue of people turning in and out of there. And I think my advice, Chair, would be not to seek to control the parking through that. That would be my advice, Chair, in terms of deliverability of an outcome.
No further questions for officers? Councillor Peterson.
Can I ask how, I'm not sure whether he's done this already, but it says that you modelled this on a 30 vehicle arrivals at peak AM times and PM times. How? How do you model this? How do you get to 30 vehicles going in and out?
I'll just come back to Councillor Peterson in a second, Chair, but Graham's done the distance between the two. Councillor Liggett mentioned it earlier, and we've calculated that at 75 metres from where the new crossing would be to the one that is beyond where the old post office is, so 75 metres. Just getting back to Councillor Peterson and the question that she's raised, Chair, the modelling is done based on the work of the transport assessment in respect of the application, and for housing development it's done on a certain vehicular movement in and out of a new estate, for example. So it would be no different here in terms of the modelling that's been done to assess the traffic movements in and out of that junction. And as the Highway Authority have said, they believe that modelling is robust enough for them to make a judgment in this instance. But it's done through, as Councillor Peterson's alluded to, it's done through modelling and appropriate algorithms, etc., Chair, to model the traffic movements.
Nobody's actually been and looked at the traffic going through? Is that what you're saying? No one's actually stood in Claycross and watched traffic going through at peak times in the mornings and evenings, and lunch times even?
I'm not saying that has or hasn't been done, Chair. That would be a matter for those who've made the assessment. As officers, we know the traffic that moves through Claycross during a normal day. We've all been up and down the A61 plenty of times to assess that. So I can't give a clarity, Chair, in terms of has somebody gone and seen the situation. But bearing in mind it's a new access, so it would be a new development and bring in a new situation. That can only be done through the modelling, and that's the most robust way that we can assess the potential traffic movements of this scheme. So that's been done, and as I say, Chair, the Highway Authority have confirmed that's a robust way of assessing the impact.
Thank you. No further questions? Right, thank you for that. This leads us to the final part of the process, our discussion about what we have heard, what we think and what we want to decide. But before we go any further, I would just like the clerk to remind us about motions.
Right, thank you, Chair. Please bear in mind, members, that a motion must be moved and seconded before a vote is taken. If an amendment to a motion is moved and seconded, then that amendment will be voted on first. If a motion is to be moved which goes against the officer recommendations, then the member who has moved the motion must give the reasons for doing so. The reason for moving a motion against officer recommendations should comprise the relevant planning issues and be supported by evidence as necessary. If a motion to reject officer recommendations falls, or in other words, it is not passed, that doesn't mean that the recommendations are automatically approved. Rather, you will need to take a positive decision through a further motion in favour of the recommendations or a different course of action. This will need to be approved by the committee through another vote. In terms of the timings of motions, these should be moved and seconded after the committee has heard, read and discussed the evidence before it. The Chair will indicate when this point has been reached and will invite members to put motions forward. Members will be reminded of this by the clerk if they wish to propose a motion before then. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alan. I'd now like to open the floor for debate. Councillor Liggett.
I'll be honest, I'm very worried about the moving of the pedestrian crossing. At the moment, the main bus stop into Claycross from the south is at the church. That's where the bus shelter is, that's where the pavement's wide, that's where most of residents from my neck of the woods get off. And I just can't see them walking past where they need to be to use the other crossing. I think they will just still try and cross where they've always crossed, where the pedestrian crossing is now. And I do feel that where that is, it's not in the mouth of where the proposal for the new crossing, it's nothing to do with the mouth of the newly pedestrianised Market Street. It's to the south of that, and the pavements on both sides there are extremely narrow. So you've got somebody with a mobility scooter waiting to cross. One, they're going to have difficulty in turning, and two, they're going to hold up everybody else trying to use the same pavement. And what's going to happen then? People are going to step round them into the road, I would imagine. Because that is both sides, it's extremely narrow there, nothing like where the pedestrian crossing is at the moment. I'm very, very concerned about that because I think that is a road safety matter.
Thank you. Anybody else want to contribute? Councillor Foster?
No one else is going, I'll go. For me, we've heard no objections from the statutory consultees, from the Highway Authority, from our environment team. We've heard supportive comments from Derbyshire County Council as well in the late reps. Parish Council have given some objections, but as I've looked through them, there's no material considerations in them that I've seen. I'll happily be corrected on that, but I haven't seen any. For me, it preserves the character of the conservation area, the setting of the church. The town board wants it. We know businesses want it, and officers are recommending it. More importantly, for me, as you can probably guess, it fits with local plan policies and the NPPF. It fits with SP2, SDC12, SDC5, WC4, SDC6. I've read those, and this fits with those policies. So that's where that's where I'm leading. As we spoke about already, sustainable travel ID3. Planning permission will only be refused on transport grounds if there's an unacceptable impact on highway safety or that impact is severe. We've heard from officers that if there is any harm, it has to be quantified. Well, we've heard anecdotal evidence about harm, but certainly no, that's not been quantified at all. So because it's not quantified, there's no evidence to support going against policy. There's no supportive evidence at all. That's how I see it. I'll be corrected by anybody else here, including officers. So as I see it, as it currently is, I'm minded to support this application as it stands, because we don't have a policy that goes against this, and there's no evidence to support going against any of those policies. That's clear. So I'll be happy to support this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Ulster. Anybody else? Councillor Cooper?
Thank you, Chair. I just want some clarity, really. SDC 12, create good design. Does it create good design? I don't know. I'm not sure how that can be quantified whether it creates good design or not. And it's mentioned twice in SDC 12. Personally, I don't think it creates good design. Is that what it's relating to? Because it's not floating my boat.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Peterson.
Nowhere in this plan does it say anything at all. When you're looking at SDC 2 about trees, it doesn't. You're cutting down 5 trees. In Charlotte Cupid's thing, I think she said these are recent plantings. No, they're not. These are mature trees. They've been there quite a long time. They are beautiful trees and they enhance the whole of Claycross going through. But nowhere does it say that you're going to replace these trees.
Thank you. Anybody else want to contribute? Well, I'll jump in here then. I think we've got caught between a rock and a hard place. I think we've got, Councillor Foster is correct that against policy it's very difficult to not push this through, to not accept this application. But it still doesn't sit right with me that the fact that we're going to change the complete parking layout from Market Street, which had access to 30 car spaces, to cut them down to 4 and put 25 off of the A61. It's the scheme that's the issue. While it doesn't go against policy, I think the scheme isn't right. It doesn't fit. And that's where I have some real reservation on this. But I don't know how we can do that. And I think the other part is that we've also got the parish council here and members from Claycross who are all of the opinion and are getting lots of people speaking to them about this, saying that they don't find it acceptable. And I'd like to see at least some more consultation or something on this. While it doesn't go against policy, I think a better, an up-to-date consultation with the public, apart from the 21 statutory days we've had for the application, something needs putting in place to confirm that this is the scheme that the residents of Claycross want, and that's where I'm standing on this. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Chair. When you mentioned there about wanting to knock this back and refuse this, and you say, I don't know how we can do this, there's a reason you don't know how we can do this, an absolute reason, and that's because we've got policy that says we can. Now, our job here is not just to give, it's not just to give personal...
I did say that in what I said. I did say that.
I understand that, Chair. But that's the whole reason we're here. We're here and our guidance is, and this is what we're supposed to do as planning committee members, is to follow the rules and the policies that are set before us. It's not that we put the policies onto one side and we all give our opinions and say what we like and what we'd like to see. Our job as planning committee members is to follow those rules, and that's exactly what they're for. And if we don't do that, what we do is leave ourselves open to challenge. As soon as we stop following our own rules, we leave ourselves open to challenge. So, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Does anybody else want to contribute? Right. Now on the floor to motions. Okay, Councillor Foster.
Yeah, that's a simple one for me. I propose we go with officers' recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Hancock.
Thanks, Chair. As much as I actually agree with everything you've just said, our hands are tied. We've got absolutely no alternative here, and having personal prejudice is as much of having an interest as anything else. So we really can't do it. I do question the validity of how much improvement it makes, and I think in terms of highway safety, potentially it's going to slow down the traffic at busier times, which will be a benefit, although it's going to add to congestion. But we've got absolutely no legitimate grounds to turn this down at all. So reluctantly, I'll second Mark's motion.
Right, we have a substantive motion on the floor. Is that, and that's to accept officer recommendations and approve this application.
Okay, to go to the vote now, Chair?
Yep, go to the vote, please.
Got votes on the chair. I'd like to speak if that's okay.
Okay.
So straight to vote. I'm speaking when I can press the button, otherwise I'm speaking to fresh air. You might want to hear that, fresh air. I can't press this because it's asking me to vote, so what I'm going to ask is, and I've discussed this with legal a couple of months back now, I've got a concern that many of the votes we do take... Is it on now? I'll start again. I spoke to legal Sarah Sternberg a couple of months back now, and my concern was that many of the larger decisions made at this planning committee are now going through, a lot of them are going through on party lines. This should never happen, and I know I'm going to get some kickback from this, but this should never happen at planning committee, and it hasn't happened in the past. I've worked with you, Chair, in the past where this definitely hasn't happened.
Councillor Foster, this is all really irrelevant, I think. You've spoke to Councillor, you've spoke to Sarah Sternberg, which you're more than welcome to do. I don't think it's...
She's giving me advice, Chair. She's giving me advice, which is what I'm coming to.
You can't talk about party lines because...
I can.
Party lines have clearly been used before on lots of aspects of planning.
Well, I'll make it very quick then. I'll stop here. I'm going to ask for a recorded vote, and that's what Sarah Sternberg said is possible. I'll be asking for a recorded vote on this.
I believe
not
the
just
vote
this,
is
but
recorded anyway.
No, it's not recorded. It only goes up on the board and then it
Could you
disappears.
just clarify that, Alan, please?
Yeah, a recorded vote basically is one where three members request that there should be a recorded vote, which then appears in the minutes.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's what Sarah's described.
The
to me.
information does go up on the screen, and so actually, if you wished, you can actually check it through that way. But yes, and there have been precedents in the past where decisions have actually appeared as recorded votes in the minutes.
And that's exactly what I'm asking for, Chair. Quite clear. I've taken advice already. This is the first request. There may be two other requests for recorded votes. They may not, but this is a request for a recorded vote. Thank you, Chair.
So that's one member who's requested a recorded vote.
Chair, if all he needs is another request, then I'll second that for a recorded vote.
So on that basis, Chair, there's been a legitimate request for a recorded vote.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that, Alan. Right, we're now going to go to the vote.
Why's mine not gone?
Is everyone happy with the vote? Yep. Right, we've got 4 for and 4 abstentions and 1 against.
Do you like to see the final results there, Chair? The next screen?
Yes, please. Thank you.
The motion's carried.
So the motion's carried. Thank you. Right, colleagues, that leads us on to the second application, item 5 on the agenda, NED//00189/FL Grassmore. We will now have a brief presentation on the second application, so I'm now going to hand it over to Planning Officer.
Thanks, Chair. So the second item is planning application reference 23/00189/FL. This is residential development of the former DCC Highway Storage Depot to erect 5 detached 2-storey dwellings.
Graham, can you just wait 1 second while we bring Kathy back in, please?
Sorry,
Yeah. Welcome back, Councillor Rouse. I'm going to ask Graham to start the presentation again, if you don't mind, from the start, please.
Thanks, Chair. I'll take 2. So this is item 2. So this is planning application 23/00189/FL. And this is residential development of the former DCC Highway Storage Depot to erect 5 detached 2-storey dwellings and the creation of a new access at land off Chesterfield Road, Grassmore. So members will recall that this item was removed from the last planning committee agenda due to the applicant looking to overcome some late comments received from the lead local flood authority. The applicant has now addressed these matters and officers are satisfied that the application can now be determined. So just as an update, a number of late representations have been received on this item as well, including those presented to members in the addendum report. So comments have been received from local residents and Councillor Durrant, but these raise no new material considerations that are not already covered in the report to members. So this first slide illustrates the application site shaded orange. You've got Grassmore to the north and Chesterfield Road runs northwest to southeast. New housing development lies to the northeast of this application site. Next slide, please. So this is a more zoomed in view of the application site. You can see the new houses to the northeast and the open countryside to the east. So just to be clear, the application site is in the settlement development limit for Grassmore. So this is the location plan which has been submitted with the application, with the site edged in red. So this is the submitted proposed layout plan of the site. We've got 4 detached dwellings fronting on Chesterfield Road with pedestrian access. You've got a single dwelling to the rear of the site and a single point of vehicular access will serve all the properties, and 16 car park spaces are proposed along with a turning point to allow vehicles to enter and exit the site in a forward gear. Next slide. So this house type is a 4-bed dwelling and will be used on the 2 plots bookending the development fronting onto Chesterfield Road. This next house type illustrates the 2 other dwellings fronting the site. These are 3-bed dwellings. And this final house type is a 5-bed property and will be located at the rear of the site. So these last 3 slides are a few photos taken from site. This first one being a view north along Chesterfield Road. This site's from opposite the application site looking into the site. You can see the new housing development in an elevated position at the rear of that photo. And this final photo shows the site entrance as it stands at the minute and a view back towards North Wingfield. And that concludes the presentation, Chair.
Thank you, Graham. Right, we have two speakers on this. The first one is the ward member, Councillor Durrant.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you. You've got 3 minutes whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And good afternoon, councillors. I'd like to raise my objections on this. You've seen my late representations that I sent that should be in the addendum.
Yeah.
And I would also like to draw your attention to
Michael, sorry, we can't hear you very well at all, actually. It's very quiet.
Sorry. I can either speak louder. I don't actually have anything to... I can bring myself closer and speak louder. Is that any better?
Marginally. Give it a try if you've got nothing else.
Okay.
Okay, I'll let you start again. Thank you.
Thank you. So you've seen my objections that I raised in my late representation as attached in the amended agenda. I'd like to raise further points on that. I would like to draw your attention to the second image raised by Mr. and Mrs. Chapman, who have kindly submitted, but also I'd like to draw your attention first to the highways, points 4.4, 7.27 and 7.31. Now, while these do state that the area is 30 miles per hour, that turn is blind just off the display, and a few metres further up is 40 miles an hour, which the report has failed to disclose. Most of the traffic along there travels at beyond 30 miles an hour, leading it to be a riskier turn than what has been reported or might not be observed without someone physically going to that area. And so on that reasoning, which is covered in the local plan, I'm sorry, I do not have that to hand at this very second, I would ask you to have further investigation on that. Secondly, in relation to flood risks, which was what I was drawing your attention to with the photos. Figure 2.8 shows that there are 4 houses lie on the area of flooding in this second image. These images and the image that was shared previously are from October last year. And the area is getting more and more prone to flooding, October being the most recent. From the notes shown in 4.17, we do not appear to have a full FRA denoting the risk of those flooding when we have high rainfall. Similarly, there seems to be a contradiction between the council drainage engineer and the LLFA, who say that it will increase impermeable area on the site in point 4.17. However, the council drainage engineer says that it might change the drainage of the area, but does not say to when. And this is a major issue because this points, as if I draw your attention to local plan SDC 11.c, this includes access. And so, not only will these new build houses be at risk of loss of access by the construction of these properties, but the drainage is potentially pushing onto those existing properties on North Wingfield Road and Chesterfield Road.
30 seconds.
Thank you very much. On those existing properties and increasing the risk of flooding reaching their property. There has been no mention of this, only to say that 3.7 says that where's the water run to. There has been no land contamination report in 7.40, and despite the fact that this area, while this is an exception, the coal mining authority does note a lot of the areas around in Grassmoor are high risk. So I would ask you either to reject this application or send us for deferment for a full
end of time
risk assessment and flood assessment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Durrant. Does any members have any questions? No, no one's got any questions for you. Thank you, Councillor Durrant.
Thank you very much.
Right, we now move on to the next speaker, which is Ken Hubbock, the applicant. Right, you just need to press the button on the microphone, that's it?
Yep.
And you've got 3 minutes whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Ken Hubbock. I'm the owner of the land. If the planning application goes through, it will be me and my construction company that will be building the houses. We work just solely around Chesterfield. All my staff's from Chesterfield, so it's going to create a lot of jobs for us. I'm local to the area. I was born in Grassmore. I went to Grassmore School, and I currently live about 1 mile from the site. So what I'm getting at is that I'm not a big developer coming in wanting to chuck as many houses as I can on a plot of land and just build them cheap as possible. Every job we do is high quality and top end. The land's the former council yard. It's been derelict for years. The full yard is tarmac. It's just overgrown at the minute, well, tarmac chippings. So over the years, it's had a lot of fly tipping on it. I mean, we've only a litter picked on it. That's the only thing we've done. We've had 2 skips full of just plastic, mattresses. We had 2 ton bags full of beer cans and stuff. So the land's just been misused for years. It's in permitted development area, ticks all the boxes for housing. It's not in green belt or greenfield land, anything like that. We work closely with wildlife. We have done already with Derbyshire Wildlife on the permission. We've kept a big strip of land on the right hand side, which we're going to enhance for wildlife. The back of the plot, we're going to enhance that with wildlife. I may not look it, but I'm an avid beekeeper, so we're going to try and get a lot of wildflowers on there just for the bees, which you don't see much of these days. Hedgehog gaps, we're going to get them put in, bug hotels, bird bat boxes, we're going to put them on the houses. The Swift Society, they've had a comment saying, can we put Swift boxes on? Yeah, we'll get them put on. So yeah, hopefully you'll approve it and it'll be a nice addition to Grassmore and improve the street scene. Just going with the flooding from the last comment, what he said, it did flood in October. I think most places around the UK flooded then. It's the worst weather we've had in ages. I did see the Derbyshire flood team after, or the council, they was unblocking the drains. They said every single manhole on that road was blocked. The gully was blocked. The culvert, or I think it's culvert it's called, that what took the water away, that was blocked. So I was actually there talking to them. They said everything's unblocked there. I mean, we've had the wettest February on record, I think, this year, and it's not flooded since, sort of thing. And I've never known it flood there before. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any members got any questions? Councillor Liggett.
Yeah, how do you propose to deal with the water, also during the construction phase?
Well, the water, we've had the flood report done, and it's a low risk zone. It's not like a high risk zone or anything like that. It's very low risk. It's only a late application what made us have more flood reports done. We've had them reports done by our engineer, and they said it's not. We've ticked all the boxes really. I mean, the site, it looks, if you've seen pictures, it looks like it's grass and stuff, but it's not. It's all tarmac. It's tarmac chippings. I mean, it's the council's surface dressing yard, so all their tarmac used to go there. So I think at the minute, all the water hits that and runs off and goes onto the road. So when we're building the houses, they're going to have all gardens on there. We've got the strip to the right-hand side. That's all going to be grass. That should like hopefully improve it for it. I mean, while we're working there, we shouldn't cause any more water to go on the road with us working.
Thank you. I've got one question, just for it is regarding flooding, because I'm also a board member for Grassmore. A lot of the water that runs off, that goes onto the highway there, comes off the field. This area did also flood in 2007. So it's not infrequent. I know it's not massively frequent, but it is a flood risk. How high are you intending putting the properties above the ones road facing? How high are they going to be? Because if it floods like it flooded in 2023 and 2007, they will not have access to that access road to their driveways, definitely.
Well, the plot actually goes up in there.
Yes,
so
I know
it was the road that flooded, not the actual plot. So the houses will be above. If that ever did flood again, it would be above. I mean, I've told you the issues why it did flood. All the manholes gone. So if the manholes they shouldn't be blocked, basically. So it's like if the manholes are not blocked, it shouldn't happen again, really.
But what height are they above the highway?
it's on the plans. I ain't got anything in front of me to say, but it is on the plans. We've had drawings done. I think you've put on as well. We need to. It's in one of the conditions to give all our heights for stuff.
Okay, thank you. No further questions? You can retake your seat. Right?
Thank you.
Right, colleagues, you now have the opportunity to put questions to officers regarding this application. Councillor Foster and then Councillor Liggett.
Thank you, Chair. My question to officers is about flooding. It's what we've heard from the councillor and it's what we've heard from the applicant. We've heard that it's a low-risk zone. The applicants also said it would make it better with the gardens compared to at the minute. It's all hard standing and tarmac at the minute. So that's the opinion of the applicant. And also on 4.2 of page 44, the council's drainage engineer has also made comments there that said it would be better there. Realistically, the development would be reducing the amount of surface water runoff onto the highway. So we've heard various comments, and I'm no expert in flooding or drainage, absolutely. But we've heard comments from the applicant, comments from the councillor, comments from local members, and comments from the drainage engineer. Can we have some clarity around that? Can you sum it up and give us some your own opinion as officers on that? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Foster. So, as officers, we are guided by the statutory consultees. So, in the first instance, we got the council's drainage engineer to review the scheme, and we sought comments of the flood team. So, initially, they just provided us with standing advice, but due to the flood risk, especially from the road and the local knowledge of the chair and other residents in the area, we sought more detailed comments of the flood team. Now, they came back with a number of questions and requested more information from the developer, and they will be able to provide us with a report, an explanation about the drainage, and that they could design a scheme that could control the flow of water from site and not make the flood risk, certainly not increase the flood risk. So, you know, the proposed development, as you said, at the moment the site is it's got a lot of hard standing, so there's a lot of flow off that side. There's also a lot of flow off the field next to it. So the scheme has an ability to control the flow from that site into the drains and off site. So hopefully that provides some clarity. If you need any more clarity on that.
Councillor Liggett.
Thank you. I'm a bit confused about this flooding because the applicant doesn't seem to have a plan. It says in the report that he's got to have a plan, one for the design for the surface drainage scheme, 7.34, and also the surface water during construction. I've just asked him and he doesn't seem to have one. Just said there won't be a problem.
So do you want me to answer that, Chair? So yeah, thanks, Councillor Liggett. So I think due to the scale of development, and as you'd see from all kind of major developments down to schemes of this sort of size, you perhaps wouldn't expect the developer to provide all that information up front. And the applicant has answered a lot of questions that have been raised by the flood team about the flood risk and how water will be controlled from the site. And the flood team at 7.36, they conclude that the surface water generated by the proposed development will be capable of being captured in a sustainable drainage system and released at a controlled rate. So they are saying that in principle that it is achievable on site, but now they have requested that we include a number of conditions that will require the developer to submit those very specific details at a later date for us.
Just to add to that, Chair, Ms Graham's explained conditions 18 and 20 particularly pertinent to this because, as Graham says, the outline has been established there with condition 18 requiring those detailed design principles to be submitted to and approved in writing by the council and then implemented as such. And then condition 20, which addresses the specific issue which Councillor Liggett raised, Chair, about surface water runoff during construction. So in terms of how those matters would be addressed. Officers would satisfy that with those conditions they can be adequately addressed, such that the development shouldn't make the surface water runoff from the site any worse than it is at the moment. In fact, they should address some of that.
Thank you. Any further questions, officers? No? Right, thank you for that. This leads us on to the final part of our discussion about what we heard, what we think and what we want to decide. I would now like to open the floor for debate. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Chair.
For the first time today.
Yeah, I'm keeping my powder dry, Chair. I think my worry was all about the water and the highway and the flood onto the highway, and I know a lot of that comes from the tractors and the fields opposite, and that piece of land, that triangular piece of land, as rightly been said, has just been scrub and tarmac for as long as I can ever remember. I can only say it'll enhance the area, and I'm minded to support it now I've heard the information about the drainage. My question was going to be, is it a separate combined system? And I've read that now on page 61, which I'm quite happy with, so I'm minded to support it. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Chair. I'm much of the same mind as Councillor Elliott. I'm quite minded to support this. I'm not concerned about the flooding at all. I take the point people have mentioned 2007 and 23 with the floods, but in my other job I was involved in those with the major floods we had in those 2 years, and they happened in all sorts of strange places. They really did, and they are freak weather conditions, and I don't think you can plan for that. You know, that's for me when it comes to those areas. We can't. It's an area. It's a low risk zone, and that's as much as you can ask for. And we've got the opinion of the flood engineers as well. So that's enough for me. So I'm more than happy to support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Gay.
Yes, I'm slightly concerned about the Councillor Durrant's point about that it's near to the 40-mile-an-hour zone, although, and I've just been rereading the Highway Authority, they seem to be a bit ambivalent, but I'm reminded of a development near where I live, where I drive past quite regularly, where it is on the cusp of a 30 and a 40, it's on a bend. And I now know to slow down there excessively, but other people don't. It does, as I say, just because the Highway Authority just seems slightly ambivalent. Have you got any comments on that?
Thanks, Councillor Gare. So, in the comments, the Highways Authority do say that the site and the immediate area of road is a 30-mile-an-hour limit. So I've had a quick look on the plan. The 40-mile-an-hour limit is approximately 130 metres away to the southeast. So it's not like it was very close to the site, like immediately adjacent to the site. Then I think if it was that close, the Highways Authority would have provided a bit more commentary on that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, I'll put my little two-penny in that. Again, this is very much like the last application. We've got the officer's report and all the advice that's been sought on this, but I have seen that road and how bad the flooding is, and I know we've got to accept officers' decisions, but I, in all good faith, as a ward member for that area, I'm struggling to say yes to the application as is, and will be the one who then is going to be taking the flag for any issues that occur following if and when this is granted permission. So that's my position on it. Councillor Hancock.
Thanks, Chair. It's not very often you'll hear me say this twice in a meeting, let alone once, but I actually agree with you on this. I know these are exceptional weather circumstances, but they happen more and more frequently. I think the difference between this and the last application for me, whilst we've got the reports here, is that we've got first-hand eyewitness evidence. I've seen it, you've seen it, we know it happens. And part of the big problem that we've got here is that there doesn't seem, unless I've missed it massively, and I've been through this a couple of times, nothing seems to address the access to that area, which obviously is a key element. So even if the houses are built up and they're not there, the road access is still problematic if it floods. And I'm seeing nothing here that really addresses. Sorry, my hay fever's terrible. I'm seeing nothing at all that is addressing that issue. So I cannot, in good conscience, put my name to this one, irrespective of whether the policy is supported or not.
Thank you, Councillor Hancock. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Chair. I'm with you with the hearts and minds thing, but again, like we spoke about on the last application, it's about following what the consultees are giving us. There's been no objection from Highways, Coal Board, Yorkshire Water, from nobody. And I think when that tarmac and that scrub has disappeared, it will enhance the place, but it will help with that runoff. I think it can only better what's there. And if we take what the applicant's saying, that the county's been out and seen every drain full, and I can believe that, given the amount of mud that comes out on the tractor trailers, I can believe that is the case, and it would be from Grassmore down to Wingfield, I would think. So I'm hoping that I'll be the one that proposes we go forward with it.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. I've not gone to motions yet. Councillor Hancock.
Thanks. I mean, I agree with what Councillor Elliott said, and in principle, I actually don't have an issue with the building here at all. I just need to be 100% convinced that the flood risk is mitigated. And I know it's an eyesore, I know there's scrub on there, but scrub actually also absorbs water, so there's kind of a bit of a balancing act in terms of this. I think I just need that reassurance on this that I'd not got at the minute. So I don't know. I mean, whether it's a case that we defer it and actually ask for a more detailed flood assessment, that could be another option. But what I've got here right now, I'm not comfortable with.
Chair, can I just perhaps hopefully help Councillor Hancock? In terms of the application, Chair, as you recall, it was deferred at the last meeting to seek that additional flooding information, which the applicant kindly provided, and that's been then assessed by the... Oh, I do apologise. Sorry. Yeah, it was deferred at the last meeting to specifically around the issue of flooding, because we'd had some late comments in from the flood team at that point asking for the additional information, the flood risk assessment. That information was provided by the applicants, and then it's been independently assessed by the flood team and the lead local flood authority. And as Graham's outlined, subject to the matters of detail being worked up, they are as comfortable as they can ever be that the development on this site will be addressing its own surface water runoff. Now, Chair, I can never sit here and say to Planning Committee that there will never be any flooding anywhere in North East Derbyshire. I can't do that. And the events of last October in 2010, which I also remember as Councillor Foster does, although I wasn't in your position sorting it all out. I do remember those events, and they were exceptional, but I can't say they will never happen again. But from a planning point of view, we have all the technical evidence and information submitted to us. So as far as that is concerned, as officers, we can advise you that we have as much information as we believe is appropriate in this instance. It's proportionate to a 5-house scheme, that the scheme itself will not impact adversely on the surface water runoff of the area, such that it will make the situation worse. As I say, Chair, my advice to you is that you do have some third-party information. You've seen the photographs, but I think from an officer point of view, the generality of the scheme is that in most cases, this site will deal with its own surface water runoff. And if tested, as Councillor Foster has mentioned at the meeting, if tested, I'm not aware that we have any technical evidence that we could bring forward to counter that information that we have. So the strong view of Officers Chair in this instance is that we are most appropriately minded to advise you as members that you should go with that technical advice and support the scheme, although I hear the comments that are made about flooding, Chair.
Thank you, Adrian. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to mention some of what Mr Kirkham said. We've got enough evidence in front of us. We've got the lead local flood authority report. It was deferred to this meeting. We've also got the council's drainage engineer. We've got the, for me, the term I would use, we've got the applicant jumping through the hoops that we've set for the applicant. I would certainly not look at 2007 and 2023, those years of floods, as being anything. They're not material considerations for me. And it's about material considerations. Those 2 years, they were freak years. You know, what's different with this one, if we turn this down, and this is what it's about for me, all the applicant has to do quite easily is go straight to appeal. I can say with confidence, and this is obviously recorded anyway, but a planning inspector will look at this and they'll look at those 3 reports on flooding, they'll look at it and they'll say, yeah, they'll wave it straight through. So we can't put ourselves as a planning authority in a difficult position. We've got the advice, we've got the advice from the officers, and we've got an applicant trying his very best to satisfy policy and concerns of councillors. I'm not dismissing 2023 and 2007. I've seen the photos, many photos like that up and down the country. And like I said before, I've been involved in them. So this is I can see the concerns, but this is as easy as it gets, this one. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right. Nobody else want to contribute? Just one point. Are the all the trees being retained on the right-hand side boundaries? You're looking at the development.
I understand that to be the case, yes, Chair.
Thank you. Right, the members, I will now open this to 2 motions. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Chair. Everything I've listened to, everything I've heard, I'm quite happy with, and the developer will put the drainage in on the separate system that should deal with the flood risk. We've heard from all the consultees and our officers that it's a good scheme to go with. So I'm with Councillor Foster, who eloquently put it just the same. So I will propose we go with officer recommendation.
Thank you. Have we got a seconder? Or is... Second, are you seconding that motion?
There's some silence there. I was waiting to see if anybody else would jump in on. Yeah, I'm happy to second that, obviously, yeah. Thank you, Chair. Thought somebody else might.
Right, we've got a motion on the table is to go with officer recommendation and approve this application. So we'll put that to the vote. That's everybody. Right, that motion is carried.
Can we just see the final results, Chair?
Yep. Right, thank you very much. Right, we now move on to item 7, which is planning appeals. I now call on the planning officers to explain our next report, item 7, appeals lodged and determined.
Chair, the report is before you. There's only been the 1 appeal determined in this last period. It's quite a short period, as you're aware. That appeal was allowed. It's a household extension at Clay Cross. As I always do, Chair, the appeal decision, which you've all had, makes interesting reading, and it's interesting how the inspector set out the determination as to why in this instance it was considered that the application was appropriate. And it just, as always, Chair, commend them decisions to members, because it sets out how our own decision making should follow similar arguments in terms of how they're set out. But there may be, we do have a significant number of appeals that are outstanding that are currently being determined, and we've got 4 more that have been lodged over the past 4 weeks, so there's a steady string of them coming through. But I'm happy to take any questions, yeah, but this is it's a relatively minor development that was granted permission on appeal, but interesting in terms of how it was argued.
Thank you, Adrian. Do any members have any questions? No, we'll note that report. Right, we now move on to item 8, Tree Preservation Order, TPO 295/2023 Eckington.
Thank you, Chair. As members are aware, tree preservation orders are provisionally made by officers and then have a 6-month window, Chair, to be confirmed or not, as the case may be. And in the cases where representation has been made contrary to the making of the order, then we are obliged, Chair, to bring them before yourselves as planning committee, who make the determination on whether to confirm that order or not. In this instance, Chair, the provisional order relates to a single ash tree that lies on the main road through Eckington. The pictures that we have of the tree are all set out in the report, Chair, and show what officers believe to be an impressive ash tree that is very strident and prominent in the street scene, and in officers' opinion is an important feature of that street scene. The tree was originally determined to be felled under a notification, as the tree was believed to fall within the conservation area. Officers didn't believe that it was appropriate to be felled, and so made the order provisionally, Chair, having undertaken the normal assessments. The owner of the tree has made representations in respect of it, and those representations are set out in the report, Chair. However, officers have addressed the points made, particularly regarding ash dieback, in the report, and the advice of our colleague is that the level of ash dieback in this tree isn't at this moment terminal, and that there is significant life left in the tree. Hence, Chair, we're recommending that the order is confirmed, that the TPO is then made on the tree. Having said that, Chair, if an order is made, it doesn't stop the owner of the tree coming forward and seeking either to fell it or to undertake some other works, but then that would be properly assessed with that application having been submitted and made. So it doesn't stop that happening, it just allows the council to retain control over the future existence or otherwise of the tree. The only other point I would make, Chair, is that previously a request to undertake works that fell below the level of felling the tree have been approved by the council in terms of clearing out dead wood and removing some of the branches. So that would be a possibility for the applicant to consider should the order be made. If the order, of course, Chair, isn't confirmed this afternoon, then it would be open to the owner of the tree to fell it without the order being confirmed after the 6-month provisional period has elapsed. I hope that explains it all to you, Chair. The tree is clearly shown, albeit in its dormant state in the winter, in the report. But if there are any other questions, Chair, I'll happily answer them for you.
Thank you, Adrian. Does anybody have any questions? No? Oh, sorry, Councillor Gay.
I don't have a question, but as I live close by, I'd just like to say how lovely this tree is. So we'd be very pleased to see it stay.
That's certainly the view that we undertook in our assessment as officers, Chair, as Councillor Gay and others will know. If you drive through Eckington, it is a strident feature in the street scene, and certainly one that, as officers, we believe it appropriate that the council has some control over the future health and well-being of it. Thank you, Chair.
Right, this one all seems fairly straightforward, so I think we can move straight to a vote on this, and I'll propose that we accept officer recommendations and serve the.
I'm happy to second, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, oh, it's not just me then. Right, thanks, colleagues. That motion is carried. Right, colleagues, well, that leaves us to matters of urgency. I have no urgent matters to raise today. The only thing I would say is that we have got some training coming up, which just reminds us of the date. I think everyone's had an email on this.
Yes, and I believe it's the 4th of July and the 10th of June. For those who've actually read the email, I can't actually, to be totally honest, I think they're the dates.
I think that's right, because I can't do either, and I'm very disappointed.
We will be recording them, however, so that hopefully you'll be able to access it that way.
So if as many members can make sure they're in attendance. Thank you. Right, now close the meeting.
May I just actually, sorry Chair, didn't mention this beforehand, but there's one other bit of urgent business, and that is to inform members that Asher Bond, who's worked at the committee now for a good few years, will be leaving the council. In fact, this is his last working day today. So thank you for all your efforts, Asher.
Yes. Good luck with that, Asher. And thanks for your help all the years. Right, thank you. Meeting closed.